Welcome to the grim, lawless 23rd century, following the fall of U.S. Gov and mass depopulation of major cities at the hands of the multi-trillionaire de Huberton family. Baptized in radioactive hellfire, a rare mutation makes Turbo a fiercely pumped scrapper, haunted by specters from her past, surviving the post-apocalyptic wasteland one deathmatch pit fight at a time. But when she rescues the stunning trophy girl, the unlikely duo are thrust into a harrowing odyssey, evading marauding berserkers at every turn on their way to the ultimate showdown as they uncover the horrific truth behind the fall of humanity.
Welcome to episode 114 of Making Turbo Pit Fighter, a comic book where two guys, myself, Kurt, and the other guy on the other side, Jake, side by side every Sunday. And it is official. Turbo teaser number 2 has been printed. It's in my little grubby mitts, and it will be going out to all those who were in our indie comic exchange, our creator exchange, excuse me, trying to brand that a little bit better. But Jake, just right out of the gate, I know how you're doing. We just started, we've just talked the last 30 minutes, but no offense, but man, is there a super huge difference between a inkjet printer and a laser printer. I am just floored. I am so excited. I'm going to actually buy a laser, an 8.5 by 11, to help me do some kind of like collage elements in some of the other work that I'm doing with Crom the Barbarian Collected. But anyhow, how are you doing?
Good. I got my copy too here. I've printed these little ash cans. I have an 8.5 laser myself.
Yeah.
And you do have to adjust it. I originally started printing them just as they were created, and you can see they're much darker here. So I lightened them up, and these are just little ash can dummies for me to see how it flows and the pagination. But people should really clue into all this bonus content here, where we're going to be introducing our Substack timeline.
Yep.
And this is going to be little installments of prose that are going to be very, very cool, interesting, mini stories, little snapshots from the Turbo world before the 2240s, when Turbo was introduced as a young character. The classic question is right here: How did we ever get this way? How did the world get like that? I don't know how many comics we've opened up, and you just see a mushroom cloud in the first panel, and it's like, it was a dark world, it was a dark time, and then they're like, all right, well, how did that happen?
Right.
So, Kurt and I have spent a lot of time discussing this on the pod because, I feel that if you are developing a science fiction project, comic / story, that you should consider all of the facets of life, all of the questions, right, of resources and military and, demographics and, how are people surviving in this world, and I think we're doing a great job. We're going to be sucking people in to the Turbo world by going over these little bullet points. This is going to be, some scientists that, really, really kind of crack the nanosphere in a way that humans can really manipulate, physical properties. And once that happens, it's going to be a race between the good guys and the bad guys to control that, for corporate exploitive purposes, military purposes. And then, you got the do-gooder scientists that are trying to, share them with the right people. But, a lot of great questions come up along the way.
Well, before we get too deep in, let me just close this out. I want to give a big shout out to my man Albert over at the Kinkos out on 202 Concord Pike, North Wilmington. super detailed. Gave me a whole bunch of other options. He wanted me to see how different things were going. So he ran this bright yellow, and I noticed Adam Lemma did a teaser for his upcoming Relic Hunter, and he used this paper. So we're going to definitely get a copy of that. But other than that, you can go to kurtbrugel.com to pick up the new copy. If you are an indie creator and you currently have a book that you would like to promote and talk, we can do an exchange with you. There's a form that once you go through the email with me, or you actually find the form on kurtbrugel.com, we'll make that all happen. But right now, the first person I'm going to get this out to is the first person we did an indie creator interview with, which was Robin Ator. So I am so excited to be able to get that out to him. And then everybody else will be trickling in behind. If you are a longtime watcher and one of the creators in our Indie Comic Exchange, just be in the heads up that we only do this every Sunday. So the summer might bring us a little extra time, but scheduling could be a couple months out because we have 18 individuals who have prior recordings, and we're hoping most of them do have new things that they want to share with us. And I have also added about 10 other people, probably about 5 or 6 other people I would like to reach out and try to get them scheduled. So bear with us, and of course, we miss you, and we're looking forward to catching up with you. But
and if
that's
you
all
don't
I got,
have
Jake.
anything,
So
if you don't have anything to update it to plug, just we'll just wait until you do.
exactly. Thank you for that. But yeah, we do have a Substack. I am now writing a note down that Jake's going to send me some follow-up information. So this week I can get at least started. And so once these things arrive in the mail and you do the cool QR code. So we got these QR codes everywhere. You take your phone and snap it, and then it'll take you directly to our Dune Mag Substack, and then our YouTube channel.
Right on. So yeah, let's get back to it. So I'm working on issue 2, page 19. I'm taking my sweet time trying to develop these panels. Got my blue line pencil and my dark pencil here. This is where Turbo's going to be going in guns blazing, and she's going to be rescuing Sister Ray, who's being held by the RM as the orphanage is under siege. So this is a young Turbo, and this is a major action sequence where she's picking up guns and shooting people. You seem to be working on the we spoke about that last week. You're on the sequence in issue 1 where the trophy girl tries to strike out on her own, says I'm not going to be in this like dynamic duo with Turbo. She's not my style here, and she tries to make it alone, and it's a mere seconds before she's beset upon by the ravaging marauders, the hate breeders. She tries to escape them by hailing down a cab, but the cabs of the day are also kind of like mercenary, scumbags. And she finds herself in a pickle there, gets herself out of it, only to go back into the frying pan. So I think you're coming upon a action sequence where Turbo's going to be rescuing her yet again. And this is kind of like in our script here, where we're forcing these two together, basically by the circumstances. There's just no other way for Trophy Girl to really survive right now, and Turbo likes her company. She's definitely easy on the eyes. So right now, Kurt is going through what we call his 80% inking. He's filling in all the line work. Then he's going to do a lot of the finishing and add the toning later. So we're just working on these pages here, and As we do, we talk about all kinds of different comic-related topics, such as the comics that we picking up, the the creators that we're interfacing with, and
So I got some
the
announcements
yep. Here
or
we go. Oh, here
suggestions.
we go.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
suggestions. I don't know if you're. You have made a statement that you do not like time travel, and am a pure sucker for it. So the first one I have two on Amazon is Outer Range with Josh Brolin and forgetting the co-actress that's
Is that
his
a new
wife
one?
in there. It's a TV series. Two
Okay.
seasons, so it's been around, I think, 2022, 2023. We're waiting on 2024. Um, my wife actually made the suggestion to watch it. And anytime I did warn her, I said, this is a sci-fi thing. She's like, well, it doesn't look too bad. She ended up loving it. It is really super well written, but more importantly, ultra fascinating about the science of time. The relevance or relativity of it, and then going in the past and the future and all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to spoil anything. If you like or love stories that hinge themselves on time or time travel, this is in your wheelhouse. The other one is I was cruising around on Amazon and, was going through all of the B movie stuff, just looking for something to watch. And eventually, down in the suggestion bar below, it had a television show called Sapphire and Steel. It was 1979, and it had well, first off, the cover is of two actors that are pretty famous. It's a British television show. Um, David McCullum, who is for me, is most recognizable as one half of the Man from U.N.C.L.E., and then Joanna Lumley, who for me is most representative of the 80s, 90s. 92, I think, is when they started Absolutely Fabulous. She's the blonde in that. But they are elementals, so they are a part of a universal organization, if you will. It's never quite um, explained. You're given pieces as it goes along, but I started watching it on a whim. I am completely obsessed with it. I even have my mother watching it because my mother, when I was a youngster, and I came home from school one day, she says, "You know what? You're going to watch this TV show with me." And I thought she was like, because she was like in the middle of Days of Our Lives and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, why the hell are you going to make me watch? She's saying, no, you're going to love this. And she made me watch an episode of Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
And I got hooked onto that. So that was a me and mom watching TV. So I told my mom, she got a hold of it, and she called me the next day. And she's like, you're right. It reads like a Dark Shadows. And what I mean by that, if you don't know Dark Shadows, it's a soundstage television show. So it's not complex. Very few characters are involved, but the story and all the elements that are attached to it are super complex. So it's like a stage production, like a theater thing. Very engaging. I also have to say the first two seasons, third season I just finished, or I should say it's not seasons as much as they're like 25-minute parts in two seasons each. Creepy. I'm gonna leave it at that. But they are elemental agents sent by the universe to sort out. I don't want to call it it's more like nefarious other elements that are trying to manipulate an Earth situation. It's like just like Outer Range. If you're into space, time, and even kind of like cosmic, that kind of thing, I totally suggest these. So those are my updates for what I have been getting into, and I'm only on season 3 of 4 of Sapphire and Steel. So, and it has a comic book. It has a comic book. That's the other thing. I just found a download for 104 page comic book. It was in a magazine, a British magazine called Look In, which was kind of like a hipster type magazine. So it was all the like musical people, television, movie actresses, but they had like a 2 to 4 pager, you know, as a comic book. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah. So what year is that? Is that Joanna Lumley thing?
So Sapphire and Steel. I'll put a link to the Wikipedia. 1979. They come back season 2 in 81, another season 3 in 81, and then 82 for season 4, which looks like it only has like 5 or 6 parts to that one, but it's like 36 episodes. They're 25 minutes long.
Right.
Super campy. You really got to push past the special effects. Doctor Who. Wendy was watching it, my wife, before going to bed, and she's like, "Oh, you watching Doctor Who again?" I'm like, "No. This is Sapphire and Steel." She's like, "Oh, it looks exactly like Doctor Who." Basically the feel of it. So,
Right.
but I love
it'd
that
be
stuff.
interesting. I'm a big fan of AbFab, so it'd be interesting to see her in her earlier days.
Oh, she's so great. She is so good at anything she does. She is so engaging, and she's got like a kind of sexy in this, like in a '80s kind of way with her outfits and hairdo and her knee high boots and stuff. So it's I love this
Right.
kind of stuff. I just can't get enough of it.
I also saw. I was with my students, and we were watching the Buzz Lightyear new movie. And they had some interesting science around not time travel, but time relativity. So, and I was really impressed with, the robotics and the mechanical. Of course, Buzz Lightyear is a Pixar property, right? He's part of the famous Toy Story, which is one of the first big Pixar series, which is a joint between Disney and Steve Jobs' company. But what they had was Buzz Lightyear was on this mission, and he was whipping around a planet. And when you do that, you don't age as much. So when he came back, to the space station, on the original planet that he was launched from, everybody had aged, I think, like 30 years, and he had only been gone, like a matter of weeks. So that's not necessarily time travel. They brought up that kind of thing in Contact, I think,
Yeah.
and there was another movie with what's his name, the guy from Texas, but or maybe yeah, and it isn't like, oh, this character is going through time, but it's that this character is experiencing a difference in the passage of time from relative to other people. Um, right, and I think there was some sci-fi around that too. Like, wasn't that one of the possibilities for the Planet of the Apes? Was
Yeah.
that the
That aspect.
astronauts had gone
Yep.
up, and by the
Yep.
time they come back down, the
Yep.
Earth had
Yep.
gone like thousands of years, right?
Yep. To be honest with you, until the new versions came out and there was all this YouTube back material that you were able to watch, I thought
Yeah,
that was always how it was. I
right.
never let go of the fact that they just went into some sort of cosmic anomaly, like a comic book, time
Right.
theory, and ended up crash landing on the desolate post-apocalyptic version of Earth, which I still think is 1,000 times better. Just in my head when you're watching that Planet of the Apes.
Well, just since we're on the topic,
Yeah.
when last we spoke, I was going to see Planet of the Apes with my bro and my fam, and so I saw the latest Planet of the Apes. It's called The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I won't go into much in case anybody hasn't seen it, but there's been a bunch of Planet of the Apes movies. The first one was in '68. Then they come out in rapid succession. You had Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, etc. You move very, very quickly from Charlton Heston, big budget into these like kind of low budget sequels. And then there's a long gap, like a 20-year gap between the first Tim Burton reboot. Um, and I think that comes out in 2000. So between like the early 70s and 2000, there's nothing happening. Then when since 2000 did the reboot with obviously much more CGI. Um, another popular franchise. They're going to be just churning these things out every couple of years. Um, you did see like the character Caesar, who was an ape that was grown in a lab, and the explanation for the current series is like it was a virus, a man-made virus that made apes intelligent and made man dumb, basically. And so they kind of continue that storyline. But the thing that I wanted to bring to your attention was kind of like the commandy aspect of the latest Planet of the Apes movie, because everybody who's seen the preview knows that it centers around a female, girl, a human character who is negotiating, this crazy world, and she plays a very, very pivotal role in the unfolding of action. The CGI is incredible. I mean, they just make these, apes look so human and expressive. And, it's one of those movies where I never once thought, oh, wow, that's fake CGI. It looks a little, put together there. It really just takes you away because the CGI is so good nowadays. But yeah, I mean, my review is like, it's typical action movie. You probably get your money's worth if you're just going for some popcorn and a night out. Um, but I don't think it really honors the original
Pushes
novel.
anything forward.
Well, I don't think it really, like when you're a real science fiction nerd and the original series well, and like the novel and everything and the French translation and all that, then you're looking for something to chew on. And this is basically just, I mean, Hollywood has done this forever. They had a TV show, for God's sakes, called The
Oh
Planet
yeah.
of the Apes
Yeah.
in the '70s. And if you want to talk about camp, Denny O'Neil was talking about, writing for that series and just how low budget everything was. And they just stripped everything down to the bone. I think I've told that story before where he's like, the writers are like, a battalion of, fighters comes over the ridge. And then they're like, no, bring that back. We don't have the budget for a battalion of fighters. We're not going to be able to afford all those extras. And so they're like, a team of fighters comes over the ridge, and they're like, no, we don't have the budget for that either. So then they're like, two fighters come over the ridge. Okay, we got
Oh,
the
we got
hero.
that. We can do that.
And it was the same thing with Logan's Run, which is a movie and a series that we probably have to cover at some point too, because it's a great sci-fi concept about aging out and stuff. But
Mind-boggling
the
too, like
low
such
budget, yeah,
shows.
low budget TV series, really, really just cheapen the property so bad. It's not funny, and so
Well, they're kind of
Planet of the Apes,
forgettable. They kind of
Planet of the Apes has
forgettable.
gone through a lot of different licensing phases. They've been in Marvel, they've been in DC, they've been in Curtis, they've been in all these, indies, Dark Horse. Everybody's had a turn, but they keep moving on. So I guess whoever owns the rights is definitely trying to monetize them, and just make this part of like the mainstay, one of the
Well,
mainstays of.
you always allude. Now, when you say the people who own the rights, do you think it's like a family type thing, or do you think it's like a company who is like bought the rights and then they're the ones that are trying to maximize the profitability of it by not only having a movie, but a television show and a video game and a comic book and what do you think the life of the
Uh,
property
well,
is
without
by
looking it up, my guess is that it's owned by a giant conglomerate.
yeah.
What are you know what I'm trying to say? A
Yeah.
giant conglomerate at this point has probably been changed hands a few times, and I would imagine that they're connected to a giant movie studio. Um, let me see real quick. Who owns the Planet of the Apes? Walt Disney partially owns 20th Century Fox, and therefore owns Planet of the Apes. I don't know if this is the greatest source. This is Wikipedia. I mean, this is Reddit. But yeah, those big movie studios. They're not just movie studios anymore. They're just like all in one, like Disney is a mega conglomerate. They have movie studios, TV, comics, theme parks, merchandise, you name it. You want to buy shoelaces and toothpaste and whatever you want branded with Planet of the Apes on it, you can probably find it if you look hard enough. you know I want to get my Planet of the Apes sweatpants. It's like so but that's business, that's capitalism, and if not for that, it might have vanished into obscurity. Who knows? you know so I guess that's a little catch up. I did see some previews for some upcoming stuff. It seems like Dune was kind of like a box office flop.
Oh, really?
Everybody's complaining about it, yeah, that it's too long and it doesn't do anything. I don't know. I
Jeez.
did.
Who's
Yeah,
everybody?
I
Ah,
haven't seen
wow.
it.
Oh
I know.
my.
I definitely haven't seen it. But coming off the heels of Furiosa, I'm to me everything else is going to be second tier. But there's always some interesting sci-fi stuff coming out. It's just pouring out now because these CGI companies
Summer.
are just getting better and quicker, and it's the summer season, right?
Yep.
Um, but the tie-ins, it's really big with the tie-ins. I mean, the Planet of the Apes is a good example. The just franchises that just go forever. Because Star Wars has this new Acolyte thing coming out. I don't know if
Mm.
it's a movie or a TV series. I think it's a Netflix event or something, or a Disney Channel event. So that's like somewhere between a big box office movie release and a TV show, right?
I guess I don't
Uh,
pay attention to. I don't pay
yeah,
attention to
I haven't
anything
heard
Disney. I don't pay
I haven't heard the
attention to
reviews, but
anything Disney.
yeah, if you pay like $10 a month, you get Disney Plus. You can see
Nope.
all the Marvel,
Nope.
all
Nope.
the Pixar. You can see all the Star Wars. It's all one big umbrella now. So
Yeah,
and National Geographic. What's that?
Kate Moss is in it. Like I saw the trailer on YouTube, and I was like, "Is that Kate Moss?" I'm
Right.
like, "Oh wow, all right." Now they're pulling the Matrix guns out.
Yeah, last night we rented Boy Kills World. Now I had nothing to do with this decision. I tell my wife, just don't tell me what we're about to watch. Just she understands. I like action. I like karate. Stuff like that. So she rents Boy Kills World. I knew when I saw it. So just so you know, because I know you're a big fan, but there's also a preview out of a reboot for The Crow, and
Yeah.
the actor is this really in shape kind of new action star, young guy. I think his name is like Skarsgård or something. It's like
Yeah,
some kind of like Swedish name. So he's
he's
starring in Boy Kills World, and it's very, very kind of like cartoony, action thing in this kind of like Hunger Games type world. But there's all this like double identity stuff and really interesting fight sequences. It's very graphic, very bloody, but they're also kind of like cartoonizing that, where you can see like like every exchange there's like blood splattering everywhere they throughout the whole movie. So that's just like kind of the aesthetic of it. And my wife asked me, was this a comic book? Because it just seems, like a comic book, the way it flows and everything. But no, I don't, not that I know of. I don't think it was a comic book. And it's tons and tons of action, and then it finally resolves at the end. If anybody wants to see it, I would say, don't, spend too much on it. Like wait till it comes around streaming or something. But you know, uh, the Crow looks like, featuring the same exact actor. And, that's one of those things where you sit down and you're watching a movie and you see the same actor in two different previews for two different movies. And you're like, what the hell's going on with this? So that's what happened with this guy. I think his name was like Eric Skarsgård or something. But it looks like the Crow is also going to be this really, really violent new adaptation and reboot of the Brandon Lee series that we all know so well.
James O'Barr.
Well, James O'Barr was the comic creator,
Yeah,
but
I mean
I
the
don't.
movie does. The movie does take a life completely of its own away from the comic. But what a time. Like that thing was not only was the comic. I remember reading the comic book and somebody saying, "Oh, they're making a movie." And I remember immediately going, "They'll fuck it up. They'll fuck it up. They always do. They can't
Yeah,
they can't they can't turn this thing into a comic book." Oh my god, the soundtrack alone. Oh my, it's like that's my world. Goth. Oh my
yeah.
lord. I mean, it's just
Well,
you couldn't.
they definitely had a big hit on their hand with the
Oh
first
yeah.
one, and they
Oh
realized that
yeah.
they could like unfold it into a franchise, and then it just got stopped in its tracks because people of a certain age might not realize, but Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee, who was, just blossoming into a major action star featuring a comic book property called The Crow, was killed on the set by a blank being shot into his belly, I think. Exactly the same thing that's unfolding right now with the Alec Baldwin lawsuit, right?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
that
Shame.
happened again, right?
Yeah.
But that's how Brandon Lee died,
Yeah.
and it was
Crazy.
really tragic
Yeah.
because everybody was kind of pulling for him to, I mean, he was never going to be his dad, obviously.
I don't
I
know,
mean,
man. There was a lot of talk about him putting standing on the shoulder of giants, man. The charisma he exuded as the Crow and the action he was able to perform was a absolute perfect recipe for action. Excuse me, for success in action movies or um, that sort of genre driven comic book thing that was coming forward. Because to be honest with you, I probably watched everything he was ever in the B movies, and he wasn't that bad. He just had not arrived. He had the martial arts skill and the action, but his charisma was never locked in, and it was probably because he and everybody else was like, "No, man, you got to be more like your father. No, man, you got to give us more of the lead thing." And he finally, I think, for this, was able to put a mask on, hide behind the character, and then
right.
completely permeate and penetrate his true identity. So I will
Yeah,
disagree with
yeah.
you, and
I
we'll
mean,
never know until
yeah,
somebody
Bruce Lee.
does the CG AI thing.
Right. Yeah, they bring him back. No, yeah. I mean, Bruce Lee was just the universal, action star,
He's the original. He's
kung
the
fu action
original.
star, and he just, he was basically himself in every role. Brandon Lee, really came into his own when he got into that character and caught fire. But another life tragically cut short by bad prop guys. Like I don't know exactly how it works. I think it was a blank that was lethal, or they
It
forgot
was
to
a
do it, and they
fragment. I remember it being something like a fragment of the casing from the blank discharged and then went into some. I think it was his face.
his face. Now you wouldn't die from that. I don't think.
I
I
don't
thought it was
know.
his
It was
stomach. I don't
something.
know.
Yeah, there was something. It was obviously something that took him, only I think matter of hours for him to, pass.
Yeah, right. Well, he was from Wilmington, NC. Actually, he died. He died on the set in a freak accident when a prop gun. Uh, oh man, his co-star actor Michael Massey fired at him with a prop gun, and you would think they would have learned because the exact same thing happens again years later. Unknowingly fire a bullet fragment at Lee, who later died in surgery. Massey did not face any criminal charges. Lee's mother did successfully sue filmmakers for an undisclosed amount. And then decades later, a similar incident occurred on the filming of Rust. I wonder if this Rust movie is ever going to come out. So yeah, just going. I'm just remembering a couple of the other previews. I don't know how you feel about this one coming out, but there's this big budget sci-fi picture coming out called Atlas,
I've
and
not heard. Is
it's
this the
going.
Ayn Rand thing?
No, I don't think it's Atlas Shrugged. I don't think it's anything to do with that.
That was a joke,
It.
Jake.
Oh, okay. I didn't get the humor. Um, no, it's a vehicle that the preview shows. Like I guess like warriors inside of big action suits. Like big robot suits. Like they control giant robots from within.
Mecca.
But it's definitely a J Lo vehicle. So Jennifer Lopez is starring in this, and they build this whole new sci-fi world around her, and she's a pretty good business person, so I imagine she's
Oh,
involved in the financing, production, back end, all that stuff. And I don't know if she's dallied with sci-fi before, but she is
yeah.
now, and it might.
She did that
What's
one
that?
where it was about dreams. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It's on the tip of my. I think Vince D'Onofrio is in it, and it was very
Uh,
surreal. I'll put
no, I don't know
something.
that
I'll
one.
flash something up there when I do the edits. But
Yeah, I mean, I know she does a lot of rom coms, but I mean, here's what's happening, right? Like you have a Tom Cruise, you have a J Lo. These guys are, they get millions of dollars per picture, and they make potentially tens of $1 million in profits every time they put out a picture. They're getting older, and I think when you make a sci-fi movie, you can say, well, we're just CGIing everything anyway. Why don't we take out all those wrinkles, and why don't we shape my butt a little bit better, and this way they can continue on for decades, even though their physical bodies are
it's a good
aging,
point.
and
It's a
and
good
they can
point.
continue to be these, like, these active stars, these action stars in these sci-fi movies, because every day, I mean, at some point, I don't even know if they're going to need actors at all, right, at some point. So that's going to be really interesting to see as time drags out, because like you said, we're talking about the digital rights to famous personalities, and we might see some new Bruce Lee movies someday. We might see John Wayne movie someday. They've already put Bogey in some TV commercials, and Marilyn and stuff like that. So what's going to be the further limits of it? And do these big stars have to worry, that their kids are going to mismanage their images, and they don't know how to read a good script, and put them in some like dog movies, like some flop,
but see, again, that's where the question comes back: is how are these rights being really optimally controlled? Because I've read and heard things where, Bruce Willis just sold his entire likeness. It's likeness, sound, and I think form and movement. So it's
Right.
anything relating to. Now, this is also going to be tricky because I think what's going to happen is that you're going to end up probably about 5 years from now. You're going to be able to take Sylvester Stallone, John Travolta, and Bruce Willis and create a new actor.
Oh.
See, this is
but
where it's going to be really interesting because can you imagine being a young person going through high school and you do the high school play and you're the lead or the co-star to lead, whatever, and it's magic. Performing is magic to you. And you go to NYU and you start studying acting and you're doing off-Broadway thing. And the next thing you hear from your agent is, you're doing really well, kid, but we just want to be able to buy your voice, your form and movement, and that's it. We don't need your appearance.
No, that's where art.
It's because it's just content. It's just more information to put into the machine.
Yeah, we just want to scan you. We just want to scan your body.
Yeah.
You
have some good stuff, but she'll never develop. She'll never develop into what it took Meryl Streep or Jodie Foster or Gina Davis or any of these. Any good actress in our pantheon. They start in the dregs of movie making and television, and they find themselves in the craft. And they become Bruce Willis. They become Sylvester Stallone. They become, you know what I mean? Have you watched Death Race 2000 and the acting that comes out of Sylvester Stallone?
Right.
But he does become iconic. He does become iconic, and you can't lose when you do an Expendables movie.
Yeah, both exactly. I was going to say The Expendables is purposely bad, and John Travolta has made a bunch of purposely bad movies. I don't know if you saw the Battleground Earth. It's considered one of the worst movies ever made, but it gets a lot of views because of that, because it's so low on the Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, I think one of the reasons. I mean, I'm not trying to defend it, but I have heard the reasons it was touted is because it was Scientology funded. It is an L. Ron Hubbard's story. You know what I mean? It exuded a whole kind of like brainwashing.
If you watch it, you just know within 10 minutes this is one of the worst movies ever made.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not trying to defend it, but I think there's a whole bunch of other baggage that doggy piles it to be
that's fine.
the worst movie. You know what I mean? Because I love the worst movies. I want to see the worst movies.
That's why I watched it. We had a good time, but we're not going to ever watch it again.
No, you say that now.
Travolta puts his name on. Yeah, I mean it's the kind of movie you might want to cut it up into clips and make TikTok memes out of it.
I have three favorite movies. My top 3 favorite movies, if I had to go to a desert island for the rest of my life, it's Conan the Barbarian, Fellini's 8.5, and Saturday Night Fever.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Saturday Night Fever is one of the most perfect movies ever made when it comes to storytelling, in my opinion. I love that movie. I remember it took me years to convince my wife to watch that movie. She said, I'm not watching it. I'm not. That's a stupid. She watched it. Was like, I go, are you misty eyed? And she's like, no, you are. You're crying. Why are you crying? I said, because it always gets me there at the end. You don't know if they're going to be together, Jake. You don't know what's going to happen. But they're still both going to dance. They're still both going to dance.
Right. Well, you know, and then John Travolta's career has just been, you know, just so incredible. You know, when you talk about the Grease and the let's get physical phase, you know, and then you get
Blowout.
the
Blowout, man. Another fucking awesome movie, Blowout. You have to see Blowout. Everybody,
right?
go see Blowout. Pulp Fiction.
You have Face Off, with him and Nick Cage, right? That was another one. You know, just an incredible career. He's still going. A lot of his roles are like, you know, he's the bald bad guy now, but you know, you got you know, I mean, you could even talk about his comedy work. You know, you got Vinnie Barbarino, and just you know, he was a pretty good dancer. And I have this program. I was trying to sell it on eBay, but I have a 1978 Grease program where it has a picture of Travolta in it when he was only 15 years old, starring on the Chicago production as Kaniki. And then when I put it on eBay, it didn't sell. And then some like eBayer reached out to me and was like, you know that John Travolta was not 15 in 1978. So that picture of him was, you know, many years old at the time. And I was like, I don't care what you're talking about. I don't know. I'm just trying to sell.
A lot of energy there. Wow.
I don't know. I was like, the guys that are home with a lot of time, I can't even. But yeah, you know, interesting stuff. You know, that's where his roots were. You know, Chicago stage. He was kind of like a stage mom's son, and he was, you know, pushed into Grease. He ended up starring in the main role as Danny Zuko, and you know, that's definitely a timeless classic. But I don't know.
45-minute mark. We're over the 45-minute mark. Let's wrap this up.
A field here talking about sci-fi ending up, you know, I mean, Battleground Earth, at least it's sci-fi. So if anybody wants to see that, you know what, I'm going to say, Kurt, flip a graphic of Battleground Earth onto the screen.
Yes,
and
sir.
Let the viewers decide. Do you want to see this? Because as one of the best, worst movies ever made, you know, maybe you can spend some time with your friends goofing on it.
Well, with that being said, Turbo Teaser number 2 is out and purchasable at kurtbrugel.com. If you are an indie comic creator and you've made it this far because you're working on your comic, you're a turbo nut, and we would love to do an exchange with you, get you on the channel, and talk about your work, our work, and comic books as an industry. But other than that, Jake, I don't have much more to share. Let these people get back to reading comics, making them if they choose. What do you have on the out?
On the out, I would just say stay tuned for our other series. Make sure you check in with Comics That Influence, where we do cool flip-throughs. Sometimes we do comics, sometimes we do stacks. And our creator exchange, as Kurt was just alluding to, right now we're going to go tape a Crom update. So we have a lot of stuff in the works. Make sure you check it all out.
All right, I'll see you in a bit.